Hello and welcome to the ghbond channel. It's been a while since I've done a video on PulseChain. I guess that's because not much has been going on. I've been sitting here waiting for my prediction of a launch late last year or early this year to come true, and it hasn't. But Richard Hart has taken to posting on Twitter that at any moment PulseChain could launch. Okay, TestNet 3 is out. PulseChain could launch at any moment. Well, we were thinking that about a year ago at any moment, and guess what? It's a year later. So is this any moment just something to keep us satisfied for another year? Is it a transitory any moment, or is Richard really going to launch? I'll give you my opinions on why he has to launch very soon. And these are my opinions, not financial advice, just something for you to consider while you're making your own decisions. Most obvious reason is because the bottom in Bitcoin is probably quite a ways off. It looks like Bitcoin may not bottom till next year, and I don't think Richard can wait till next year. He was hoping the bottom would be swift and soon, but obviously it's rebounded substantially. Doesn't look like the bottom's coming imminently, and it could be a year away. So Richard can't wait for that. Second, and this is number two for a very good reason, we all know Richard thinks highly of himself, and believe me, I think most of us think highly of Richard. But after a while, after it gets past a year of waiting for PulseChain, slowly but surely his credibility starts to erode, and it's hard to criticize others when you've got your own house in disarray. So I think he needs to set that right in order to maintain his credibility. Number three, when Richard launches PulseChain, the thing he desperately needs is to get Fiat into the chain. Fiat is what will give the chain value. People putting their dollars in there and buying his coins. If Fiat is under siege because the banks went down, the theory is when the FDIC goes broke, all the banks shut down, and then the Congress calls a banking holiday, and when we come back up from the banking holiday, we have the new U.S. digital currency, which nobody wants to deal with. So Richard wants to get ahead of that for sure. And banking could roll over and die at any moment. There's really nothing preventing it. Because as we all know and understand, the banking system in the US is another huge house of cards. If you want something really safe, I guess you got to go to crypto. And then there's also the danger of the dollar to BRICS. Now, BRICS are not the kind that get thrown through your window. BRICS is an alliance, and major players being China, Brazil, Russia, India. Their concept is to trade outside the US dollar so that the US dollar won't be the world's reserve currency anymore. And if that happens, it could have serious effects on the dollar. Some say hyperinflation, but I don't think that's a danger anytime soon, and I think it will be more gradual. But it is definitely something that Richard doesn't want to risk waiting around for. Number five is regulatory threats. Obviously, Congress would like to get their hands on Bitcoin and all the other coins because right now they don't control them. And if there's anything the government hates, it's something that it doesn't control. So ahead of any regulatory threats, Richard would like to get the U.S. money in there. He doesn't necessarily need the U.S. long term, but if the U.S. money is already in there, people are going to dodge the banking regulations anyway, so he needs to act before the regulations actually launch, which isn't a serious threat because it takes Congress forever to do anything, but it's something I'm sure that's on his mind. And last but not least, a possible bull market. The market's rising, and yeah, sure, it's still within a range that doesn't really suggest any serious bull strength, but you never know. Bull markets tend to, as they say, climb a wall of worry, and the last thing Richard wants to do is be sitting on the sidelines during a bull market. If we suddenly become risk on, which is always possible, Richard needs to be there. So those are my thoughts on why Richard needs to be launching his PulseChain very soon, and I hope that I'm right. And he does launch it very soon. Next video I'm going to do is on TestNet 3. TestNet 3 is out, and we'll talk about whether you should even bother with it and how to set it up. Till next time, this is ghbond saying, may the pulse be with us.